Hi there. I thought I'd make this short video to explain why I took a saw to my boat on my Arran trip this year. A number of folk had asked the reason, so here goes. I wanted to mount a outboard onto the back of my boat, and I sail a GP14, so it doesn't have an open transom, so you have to do some sort of adaptation. So what I did was I mounted a bit of plywood that comes higher than the back of the transom, and so the outboard can clamp onto that. And because all your pressure is going forward, it doesn't need to be particularly thick. So 4 bolts onto the transom, clamp the outboard, and all's good. And I had used it a few times. It's just a wee Suzuki 2, so not too much pressure. When I came out of Largs Marina, there was a bit of a swell, not too much, but enough. And the wee outboard was managing fine until I noticed that the swell was actually causing the whole engine to flex. And eventually, within minutes, the plywood cracked. There was a big crack, and I could see now the outboard was almost free. So I quickly grabbed a rope, wrapped it, pulled the outboard up, killed it, pulled it up and lashed it. But when I turned round, I realised I was only like 100 yards from the opening of the marina and the rocks. So there was no way I could get my sails up in that time. So no choice. Drop the engine back in, get it started, and just cling on to it and get myself further out into the Clyde. So did this, just holding on to for ground in case it snapped fully off and went to the bottom while it was tied on. So switched it off, lifted it up and lashed a rope round it. Got the sails up, and 6.5 hours later I got over to Arran. So I needed my outboard to get back into the marina, because you can't do it under sail. Yes, I could do it under oar, but I just like to have that wee engine going along with the tiller. So I had to do something, and my solution was to borrow some tools. So I got a panel saw and cut the section of ply that was sitting above the height of the transom. I then marked on the forward of the transom an area that I'd have to cut out to allow the clamp of the outboard to drop inside the true transom of the boat. So I did that, and I drilled a hole in the furthest most point out from the transom, then got my phone out, put it underneath and photographed where that hole was in relationship to all the rest of the woodwork, and I could see I was quite clear. So made a series of holes with the electric drill, and because it's very thin ply, the electric drill went through and I could join up all the dots and take that section out. I then took the bit of ply that I'd cut off the top of the transom and slid it inside, and that allowed the outboard to clamp inside onto that, and the outside clamp was onto the original ply. And it's sort of a sacrificial. It means you can take it off and you haven't actually damaged the true transom of the boat. And that meant my outboard was back to being mounted, and as it happened, it sat a couple of inches lower in the water, and it always should have been sitting a couple of inches lower in the water as it went along. So that's why I took a saw to the back end of my boat so that I could get back home.